Well, if you're just tuning in right now, my name is Lana Labonte, and I am here to uplift, support, hopefully inspire, and that empowers you to be the best version of you. You are here, and you are meant to be and do. And I am in Valencia, España, traveling, globetrotting, adventure. I'm on an adventure. Isn't that what life is meant to be? So, if you didn't notice the title, I see someone's joined. So the title is about punishment. Isn't it interesting? We never question punishment as a teacher. We just accept it. And in fact, we're in fear of it, like the fear of authority, the fear of getting in trouble, the fear of punishment. Why is punishment so powerful? Why do we give it so much power? Why don't we ever question the need and the use of it? I mean, isn't that what war is? War is a form of punishment. It's a do as I say or you're going to get in trouble. There will be repercussions for you not getting in line, you not going along, you not doing what we tell you to do. Punishment. It's a shitty teacher. And it's the biggest oppressor of our expression. It is the worst suppressor. It's an abuser. It's an accuser. Punishment is there to keep you small. Punishment is to beat you down, not lift you up. Punishment makes you defy and deny your truest, authentic, inner nature, your expression. So if you've listened to my videos before, you've heard me say, what you suppress will express until you address. Well, let's talk about punishment. Why do we suppress? Because we've heard it enough times. It's caused us to suppress. Punishment starts in our childhood. We're taught to lie because if you teach a child that's bad, that's wrong, and then you punish them, you also teach them how to manipulate and to lie. You're not encouraging them to be honest, to be forthcoming. Because the moment you punish a child, that child is at that pinnacle fork in the road of, okay, if I do this, this is what happens. And so this is how children learn to manipulate. They find ways to get around, to circumvent, to navigate. That's what we're doing in life. So when we come up against these crossroads of oppression, punishment, because punishment is a lot of times the biggest motivator for people to do what they do. And a lot of reverse psychology is utilized as well. That's why it's a psychological operation. There's so much implanted to deliberately get you to go against the rules. Tell a child not to touch a hot stove. What is the first thing a child will do? Well, I want to know why. So I'm going to touch the hot stove. You cannot just say, don't do something without explaining. There has to be some logic for most of us to wrap our heads around, unless you are a good little doobie and you do what you're told. And a lot of times that's been ingrained into you. That's been literally deep in the groove within you, that a punishment has happened enough times that you're actually the one punishing yourself. So from those young formative years, we're punished to get us to go along with a certain way of being. The indoctrination, the infiltration of the doctrine they want us to follow. And so our parents and our teachers are taught to teach us through the whipping, through the slapping, through the spanking, through the penalizing, That's really a weird word too, by the way. Penal, penalization, penalization. I'm sorry, it's just a word, but it's a weird word to me. So just look at the ways we are molded. We are created in the image they want us to emulate, to express. So through the punishment, we are taught to suppress our natural expression, our natural way of being, our true nature, that is to create. Because they don't want us to create. They want us to be fitting into the molds that they predetermine. That's what this all is. It's all predetermined. What is that word? It's manifest destiny, right? They have a doctrine and they serve it up through the indoctrination, through the education, through the prison system, because they're all numbers. We're all numbers. We are the commodity. We are the currency. We are traded. We are actually used as gambling. They insure us to ensure professing the prophecy, to get your blessing, to get you to comply and go along so they can get by. That you outsource and give your power, your source, your life force over to them. That through this punishment, they figure you can only take so much, that you will cave, falter, and fall in line. See, if you don't know where you stand, it's easy for you to fall. But when you know where you stand, you won't fall for just anything. You'll be willing to question cognitive thinking. It's the ideas. Oh, where did that come from? Let me follow the crumbs, the information. Information. It enters in, it creates form because we manifest matter into form. And then we become nations. We are individual nations. We are secular nations. We are organizations. You see where the languaging comes in all this? When you start playing and listening, and the more you meditate, the more you start to see the synchronicities. The more you get to sense what is without sense and what is your five senses. The into me I see, the intuition is the heightened senses. That when you tap into your five senses, it heightens your spidey senses, your ability to recognize, to sense, to tap into your source, the resource. That which is within you will fill you, fuel you, motivate, inspire, the inspiration, the spirit within, right? We breathe it in. Spirit is life force, it's breath, the prana. That when you inspire, the universe conspires with, con means with, into, spirit, spire, spirit. That every breath you take is God's source, breathing love and light and life into you. And every expiration, every exhale, going out. We're always expanding on the inspiration or contracting on the expiration. So it's not really that it ever expires. It's just that it's an ebb and a flow, an in and an out. The exit versus the enter. The spirit enters in you, inspiration. It expires when it exits, when you exhale. Never goes away. It just changes form. Energy in motion. Emotion. Energy is meant to stay in motion. When we are stagnant, when we are feeling stuck, it means we need to move our bodies. It means we need to ebb and flow and move and grow, evolve, allow, be willing to be led by spirit. Let spirit move through you. Let it move you. Spirit is also known, other than life force, it is also love. It is light. It is the Kundalini rising. It is sexual energy, which is creative. It is all of that and so much more. We just put words on it because this whole realm that our human is familiar with is looking for something tangible. A lot of times we don't know how to be quiet and just observe and be with what is. Because in a world where you're taught to constantly produce and be on the move and be busy and do, we've forgotten how to be. You know, buzz, buzz, buzz like a honeybee. Even I can say from my personal experience, I was flutter, flutter, flutter all over the place. I was constantly on the run, on the go, workaholic. I didn't know how to slow down. Europe has been a great teacher for me, taught me how to slow down and to be present and just be. Not needing to be somewhere or someone, but allow myself just to be as I am. And boy, I got many flavors. I got many personalities. And all of them are beautiful. My dark, my light, my crazy, my silly, my ability to adapt and become a chameleon wherever I go, or stand out if I want to. We all have that in us. What you see in another is just an aspect of yourself. We mirror that to one another. We give each other permission that, hey, I'm doing it, you can do it too. And look at me, I'm doing something you don't want to do, but you could do it too. You don't have to. This is the beauty of life. You get to choose. And that whatever's going on in the world around us, and I'm very well aware there's a lot of stuff happening, but don't believe everything you see on these little black screens. These are mediums. These are televisions. They are mediums in the sense of social media. Do you know what a medium is? There's many translations, like artists use different mediums, meaning canvas, walls. It's a form of expression, but it's the delivery of the art of the language. The same thing with music. The same thing with any artist, any form of an artist, an architect, a fashion designer, an artist in the form of drawing, an artist in the form of music and song and playing instruments. We all have our mediums that are external to us, but we are our own channel. There's the languaging. So the question is, again, if you saw my last video a week ago, source. Do you know what source is? It's that connection to your divinity. Source is what you are and where we came from. Soul source, life force. And so we are all channels for our source too. We utilize these other mediums as an external expression. But when I say outsource, most of the time, it's not of how we express and create with that medium. It's that we have given our power away to an external translator, a medium, because again, there's various definitions for words. So even the word medium has more than one meaning. So the other meaning that you would be outsourcing to would be another spirit of another being, of another external thing to you. It is not you. It's kind of like cards. Any type of channeling modality, maybe even a person. When you allow that other medium, you outsource to it, you put more priority and power towards it. You're not trusting in your own medium, your own channel, your own source. And this is where we as humans need to reclaim our source, reclaim our true divinity, which is within us, within me, within you. So we go back to punishment. But see, this is where punishment has taught us not to trust ourselves. That when you watch how religion has divided us, it's always this righteousness of justification, and punishment is always the way to justify. Hear the word justify? I hear defy. It isn't just. It's not. It's defiance. It goes against nature. So when you have to justify something, you're not actually trusting in your own true nature. The punishment that we end up experiencing in life, in this realm, that beats out of us our true nature, our beingness, our life force, divinity. We're taught to not believe ourselves, but yet I'm not for or against religion, honestly. I don't even have an opinion of that. What I do believe, though, is religion was designed to control us. Why would it exist if we humans could be just good humans to one another? It's actually ironic. I was listening earlier to Manly P. Hall on the mystery and meaning of playing cards. And I highly recommend, I'll put the link in here afterward, but that the church, what people don't realize is the church, that word came from the word 𝐒𝐿, which is the original goddess of spells. What coincidence could that be about? And that playing cards were utilized by the priests, by the church, as a divinity, a divining tool, because funny enough, humans didn't want to make choices back then or take personal responsibility for making choices back then, so they would put more power in the priests. This is how religion got so much power. So they put more faith in the priest, who would consult the cards, and the cards would have some sort of a power that has something to do with the symbols and this connection to divine, is according to what he was saying. Of course, religion has played various roles throughout periods of humanity, of course. It's been around since as far as we can recall, because we don't know anything more. But as far as the playing cards go, the irony about the church and the priests is they would tell you don't gamble, which is where the playing cards all originated from, this divining tool to choose a card. That they didn't want to choose a leader, so they wanted the cards to choose for them, which is an outsourcing of power, which is, again, it's a medium, it's a form, it's a tool. And that even as he was speaking in there, he was saying that, and I found it fascinating because it's no different than we are today. So many people don't want to take personal accountability and responsibility for making choices. So they would rather Big Brother make choices for them, rather than actually tap into the life force and the source within them. Exactly. So in this teaching that he was speaking on, the church was using the cards, but yet over time, of course, this is where the abuse of power comes from. This whole concept around do as I say, but not as I do. Here are some cards. Only I can use them. But I don't want you to know that I'm doing that myself too, because that's what the church has been doing for eons, right? They've been using astrology all this time, but they were the first to turn around and tell you that's blasphemy, that's witchcraft and heresy and all this other stuff. And it's like, don't y'all have the largest astrology library and all of the tools yourself? See, they know the symbols. They know how to wield it and manipulate. But see, that's force. Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins I highly recommend that book. It will elevate your actual vibration. And it will create a spark within you. It is a very good read. And the levels of human consciousness, the scales he came up with based on the vibration and the calibration. And it's very interesting because some teachings might be good. Oh, that's a good one. Since childhood you thought, let me see what you said there, because that's a good one. Since childhood I thought the whole concept of a god and devil was man's inability to accept their own actions. If you think about it, churches have weaponized ourselves against ourselves. That's essentially what that is. So we are dark, we are light. Everything we see in the world is an expression of us, whether we want to accept it or not. What it is you see in the world is your work to do. If it triggers you, even if it triggers you in a positive light, it gets you excited, there's some work to be done around that. And because this is a pendulum swinging, it's an imbalance. When you're highly excited over here, you're going to swing over here to the, deeply disappointed, very unhappy. Or, the good, the bad, the pendulum swings all the time. As far as you go high, as far as you'll go low, it's swing high, chariot, swing low. You're going to go, because this is how energy balances in the world. For every high, there's going to be a low. I want to say laws of physics, but this is just the law of energy. That in the world, you're going to see a lot of shitty shit. But that's also a reflection of you and where you're at. Because whatever you see, it's where you're at shows up to you. So I like to say, wherever you're at, there it is. Because what you see in the world is a reflection of the work you got to do on the inside. If you see all the atrocities of the world and you feel like you have to be out there on the front lines of justice, well, where in yourself have you been the front lines of your own justice? Because the injustices we see outside of ourselves are really the injustices we've inflicted upon ourselves. And so wherever you're at, the world will mirror that. You're triggered by something, that's your work to do. It's an opportunity to recognize, where is this showing up in my world? Where am I doing this to myself? If people, they do this to me, that's a victimhood mindset. It's a mentality. It's the idea that you don't have any control over your life. So when someone shows up and they're nasty to you, the question is, am I doing this to myself? That I've allowed or I've drawn in this energy? Even slipping and letting down your guard sometimes in your awareness, which is why meditation is so powerful, to be in awareness of your mindset and what you're going to draw to you. Because if you start out your day in a shitty mood, haven't you ever noticed? It's like the snowball effect. If you're in a shitty mood, it all shows up to you too. And the universe is noticing that where attention goes, energy flows. The universe is like, you're appreciating that. Let me give you some more of that. Let me blow more of that smoke your way. Because the universe says, okay, this is where your attention is. We're going to help you grow that. And equally, if you are in gratitude, you are just dancing and singing and finding all the good things in your life, the universe is going to send more of that to you too. So this is why it's so important to notice what is the unconscious, make the unconscious conscious. You want to make meditation, mindfulness practices, single-minded focus is all meditation is. You don't have to sit and go, Om, you know, look, do all the things. You could just be washing dishes and in a meditative state, and your mind just notices because you're single-minded focus. Or you could just breathe. There's so many different forms of single-minded focus. It doesn't require you to sit in lotus position or to do, you know, stand on your head or do any weird, funky positions, or, you know, there's no right way of doing it. There's just being. And so being present with what is going on within you and noticing the grooves, noticing the record player that's continuously going through your mind, like, you know, does the voice that keeps telling you you're not doing it right, the voice that keeps telling you people don't like you, that people are judging you, but actually it's you judging you and you're attracting more of that to you, that the punishment, as we go back to the beginning of this discussion, or my monologue over here, punishment was taught to you. You were taught to accept punishment without question. No, and this is what I was sitting with earlier. I'm like, why do we think that's okay? Why do we think it's okay to be punished? And it's funny because I was listening to something earlier about how we humans are nuts. We humans literally will project into the future what it is we want as a goal and go chasing after it like we can't have it right now. Think about this. Chase, 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 throw it up into the front, you know, into the forefront. Choose your wise carefully, because when you say it's hard, the universe is also conspiring to support your hard. So if you're going to choose hard, choose your hard wisely. How about it might be a challenge, but it is accessible to me. It's the languaging that creates the spell. You cast the spell through the language, through your spelling, through the words you use, because the tongue or the finger are like wands. We're casting the lingam, the finger, wielding it like a wand. We're literally casting our own spells. So we have to be really mindful about the languaging we choose. Otherwise, we're pretty much creating more of that. So when you tell a story, can you tell it more empowering than disempowering? If you're saying it's hard, you're right. If you're saying it's easy and everything flows to me as I need it, you're right. But see, again, energy flows where your attention goes. And so it's up to you to choose. And this is why mindfulness practice is so important, because we are literally self-flagellating with the language, with the tongue, casting a spell upon ourselves around the challenges, around, it's so hard, it's so difficult, this one did this to me, and this one did, you're giving power there, you're giving power there, again, the power needs to come from within, and you need to harness it, like really contain it, instead of just projectile vomit it in language that's not carefully spoken. My mother was phenomenal with languaging. She would say to me, choose your words very precisely and concisely, exactly the way you want to convey your message. This is why I have become such a wordsmith, and I love words, and I have such an appreciation for the duality and the duplicity of the languaging, that one word has at least two meanings, if not more. And I say that because I just used the word medium as an example. The media. You've got televisions, right? Channeling, that's a go-between. You don't need the televisions, you don't need the media if you are the channel. If you tap into source within you, then you don't need to outsource to media channels that are not you. Because if you don't know where you stand, again, you'll fall for anything that comes up to you. The more you're solid in knowing thyself, and this is why it's so important to meditate, because then you become acutely aware of your conditioning, your programming, the script that is running, you're like, oh my gosh. You know, they say, because you got to live with your thoughts, at least make your mind a nice place to visit and a nice place to be. Because you wouldn't say the things you say to yourself in your mind to somebody you loved. So it's like making the thoughts work for you, support you, reinforce the life force, your connection to source, your ability to like really create. So it's up to us. Again, the tongue, the fingers, all sorts of wands and spell casting coming out. It's like, don't be projectile vomit. Don't be, like, bleh, like spreading energy places that it doesn't need to go. Keep it contained. Focus it where you want it to go. Punishment has taught us that we're not worthy from the moment we're born, especially with religion. We're born of original sin. We have to prove ourselves. You know, we have to be martyrs, even though technically there's nothing to forgive. Maybe give for. But see, forgiveness is for self, because we have shackled ourselves to all of these ideologies, these false prophecies, these false prophets professing to us what it is we need to do to appease their version of God, which is man making God in man's image, not the original source of all that is. So we learn through punishment, ironically, like the fear of authority, because at a young age, whether it was your parents or your school or your peers or what have you, the caste system made you fear being outcast. In today's day and age, it's the fear of being disabled on social media. That if I say the wrong words, the 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐲 police will come after me and get upset with me, and I'll be slapped on the wrist. I'll be punished. I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to be that. But yet, there's so much contradiction and so much confusion, and that's by design too. This arguing, the bickering about that doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense, and you're trying to fight it, but you can't fight it because you're feeding it when you're fighting it. When you're complying or denying or defying, it's the same energy. You're still feeding it. So that's outsourcing your energy and your power and your life force and all of it. When you start to recognize that the great masters and teachers always said, the middle way, walk the middle way, which is neutrality. But as humans, we have all these emotions. And it's not to say you shouldn't honor them or express them, but it's also learning to discern whether they're in your head or coming from your true heart. Because the body responds to the mind. It's the biggest tattletale. I'm not saying what you feel isn't real, but it's always to be questioned whether it is coming from the head or the heart. Because the head will always trick you up. It will literally convince you of something that is untrue. Just because you think it doesn't make it true. Sometimes you have to question your own beliefs, your BS. Do the mental floss. Clear out the BS, the belief systems. They're our biggest addictions as humans. And belief systems are constructed by the mind into stories. They're thoughts turned into stories. The more you start to wrap your head around this literally, you start to go, oh, there I go. I'm making up a story. Is it true? Is it relevant? Is it kind? Is it supportive? Always question it. Question everything. Question everything you think you know, everything you're told, everything you read, you see. This is what life is about, is curiosity. Because ultimately, we need to be like that, the eyes of a child. Like, this is the first time I'm seeing this? Wow. Huh. What do I feel? Where do I feel it? Is it real? Or is it imagined? Or is there a story? Because there's so much to it all. But see, I'm going to go back to people allow and take punishment as the most accepted and abusive teacher. Because that's what taught us the hardest lessons. Again, there's the languaging. The most painful experiences we've had seem to make the deepest marks, the deepest imprints, the deepest grooves in our psyches. So just the idea that you've been punished, and if you've been punished enough times in your life, there's even that like physiological flinch when it's somebody does or says you get triggered by. And it's very important that you're attentive to this, because maybe you do have PTSD of some nature. Because ultimately we all have some form of a trauma we're trying to work through and heal and come back to our wholeness. To reclaim our power is to also not continue to give away our power to an incident, a past experience. Even if it resonates with you, I'm constantly questioning everything. And I say that because, you know, from one moment to the next, something might come up that you're like, what? Maybe that's something I believed once, but now I question it. I'm curious. I'm open to the possibilities that maybe I was wrong. I can say that because there have been a lot of things that I was wrong about. And just in the defense of our belief systems, because guess what? Like I said before, belief systems are humans' biggest addiction. What do you think the basis of war is? All these power structures, control structures, they're not natural power. They're like David R. Hawkins' book says, there's power, which is innate within all of us, and then there's force. It's the appearance of having power, but it doesn't come naturally, and it has to be proven or, again, punishment, right? It's usually force also comes with punishment as a recourse. If you do not go along with those powers trying to force you, they will typically find a way to abuse you and punish you. So in our cults of personality, our cultures in society, why do we allow power and punishment? Why do we allow to give away our power to people we perceive as authority when truly we're the authority over ourselves? We get to choose. That's our superpower. But out of fear, and this takes time to unlearn, to again reclaim, out of fear of retaliation, of being outcast, fear of abandonment, rejection, you know what I mean? Like this is a real thing, you know, to be outcast from society or social media nowadays. It's actually, social media is more damaging to people. That's why we have such a mental health epidemic right now, because people are literally glued to their phones. Their devices have become their vices. And I mean, I'm one of them too. I'm not immune to it. I use my phone when I'm bored. And then I catch myself and I just set it off to the side. And I'm like, I'm present. Like when I eat my food, I want to savor each flavor, every bite, every morsel. I want to smell it, taste it, touch it. Because that's what we're meant to do. Like these 5 senses that we have are a gift of this realm of being a human. It's what taps us back into our intuition. It's what it keeps us connected and grounded to this human flesh suit, and in this this opportunity that we do have. We came here for a reason. We came here on purpose, and we chose to. So why again are we so easily tripped up with punishment? I mean, a lot of times we withhold. We're afraid of moving forward in certain areas of our lives because there's some fear of punishment that we think may occur. And just sitting with that for a moment, like, wow, is there something I'm afraid might be used against me if I do such and such. All of us have something. And fear is usually what holds us back. And the fear is imagined. It really is. It's imagined, but it will tell you, the mind will tell you the story. But this happened in the past, and that happened in the past, and the likelihood of that happening again, it creates the whole dialogue of stories. It's a constructor, it's a builder. So all it knows is to take whatever it can, grasp on, and create something to keep it relevant, because it believes it's there to protect you. So you can say, I thank you, but that's not protecting me. Because sometimes we have to like abandon all of the mystery of the fear, the predictive nature of the mind based on the past, to say, you know what, every once in a while we need to just do it. We need to just throw caution to the wind. I mean, shit, you do things all the time you never think twice about. You walk out front your door, you're willing to, you know, get in your car and drive. Things happen to people all the time. If we were to hold back just because of what's happened in the past, we would not be here. And so we take risks every moment. We make a choice. We make an action. When you make a decision, there's a risk involved. There always is. And there's nothing wrong with risk, because guess what? You don't grow in your comfort zone. So if you want to stay in your pajamas and stay in your house, that's only going to last for so long. But what is it you truly desire? And I doubt it's punishment. And I doubt that I know everybody truly seeks connection and love. Like, that's at the root of everything. Love is probably our biggest motivator, and even below the surface of the fear. Because the fear is that we won't be lovable, or we won't be enough to be loved, or that we won't have love or get love or be able to love. And like, the fear even revolves around love. So we have to recognize what it is that motivates us. And the reason I came up with the punishment tonight was because I'm just like, what is wrong with us? With the world the way it is, that we think it's okay to punish under any guise of religion or whatever it is out there that's claiming that this is okay to punish. There's a set of rules that man created. I'm not being specific on anything like why people are in prison and why people do this. There are a lot of things that could be rehabilitated, but there's no point in it for them because they make a lot of this. They profit from your ignorance, profiting from the knowing that if we set up a set of rules, because a lot of governments, a lot of systems are predicated on you breaking the rules. And that's a psychological operation right there. So I'm going back to the churches were telling you not to gamble, not to do, not to follow astrology, because they were following it. They didn't want you to figure out that a lot of this occult, a lot of the symbolism was divinity, was divining modalities that you have within you. You don't need to outsource to those. But most people don't know how to trust themselves. So it's easier to trust in something outside. But at least you have some form of trust, right? But again, you're outsourcing, so the chances of those sources being supportive of your source doesn't always align, right? It doesn't always align in kind. Sometimes, just like, for example, the word pray, there's P-R-A-Y and there's P-R-E-Y. If you're someone who prays a lot, you have to be very discerning, because you could be preyed upon based on your praying. So if you're someone who's praying to an external source, what if some other infiltration of a spirit comes in and it preys upon you? These are just different ways that we outsource. But it's not to be right or to be wrong. It's just to consider. It's something to kind of like think about, because it's things to ponder and be aware of. How much do you trust yourself that you are able to discern the things around you? That's what it's really about. Being in the awareness of what is gives you the step up, gives you the leg up. It gives you the awareness, because awareness is key. You can make a more educated, more discerning, aligned choice. Again, choice is your superpower. You don't want to do it blindly. You want to have both sides of the story. You want the halves to make a whole, because that's how you become whole. If you only have partial truths, then you're going to be a partial person, a partial human in this life. And so the whole thing around the predication of rules in these systems is knowing it's a setup, it's a trap. Because you don't know any better. Your ignorance is what gets you into trouble. And this is where we need to have both sides of the story. So they've got a bunch of rules. And if you break those rules, you're the one who gets punished. But who said those rules were applicable to you? Almost sounds like a tacit agreement, like you didn't have a choice. They just imposed them on us. And see, we haven't exposed them for that. That's part of the problem right now. That them being able to punish us for imposing a rule that we never exposed them to not be the true ruler of us, that's outsourcing. We have outsourced because we have not called them out on their bullshit. We have not exposed them for their imposition upon us. Right? The Spanish Inquisition. I'm in Spain. So be inquisitive. Be willing to expose those who impose, because those who impose are looking to profit off of your ignorance. Every rule, every law was created to keep us suppressed, so we don't express, and we don't address those who are the abusers and accusers, because they have established those rules deliberately designed to accuse and abuse. It doesn't make them right, and we didn't agree upon it to begin with. In a lot of cases since then, because of the implication of it, the implicit nature of it, we have become complicit and compliant, and that is on us. But see, when you know better, you can do better. And this is the key to where we're at in humanity, in this realm, this time. It's up to us to dismantle all of the lies and to expose them for what they have imposed upon us. See, again, I'm going to repeat this. This is what I wrote down earlier. We've never questioned, why do we allow punishment? And why do we, like this is a really good one. Taxes. The first thing they'll do to attack someone's character, to pull on people's emotional heartstrings, is attack someone and say, they're not paying taxes. We need to audit them. See, all of you good people, you're paying your taxes. By the way, it's voluntary. We're fucking stupid. We're paying taxes on our blood, sweat, and tears. You're only supposed to pay taxes on a profit. You don't make a profit for your being reimbursed for your services, for your time. But see, most people are so used to the system, they're afraid of punishment. They're afraid of getting in trouble. But see, in order to reclaim your sovereignty, your securities, your personal power, you also have to take personal accountability and responsibility. And this goes back to most humans don't want to make those choices for themselves. They do want someone else to do it for them. And that's a big travesty, because when you reclaim that, it builds the courage muscle. And then you realize, wow, I can do this. I'm okay. I'm capable of taking care of myself. I can be an adult. This is kind of fun. And then your inner child goes, see, we told you it was going to be fun. Because when you were a child, when you were punished and your parents said, wait till you're an adult and you can do whatever you want, right? And then you became an adult and you got more rules on you, didn't you? Like, that's a Jedi mind trick. That's a like, what the fuck, right? We all became adults and we're like, we forgot when we were children, we didn't want to be told what to do. And now I got Big Daddy Gov on our back, you know, Uncle Sam, however you want to call him. It's like, oh, I got to rely on your ass and you're worthless and you're irresponsible. They're all corporations. It's not even government. So, and they don't even run the show. They're just puppets on strings doing what they're told to do. And yet people still fight over this stuff. It's all theater. So for every time a person is struck for defying or not complying, they're taught to suppress their true nature, their true self. And we're all taught to go against our own nature. And it's because of this, people are miserable. And people go through midlife crisis and thinking, why am I living this life? Like, this isn't the life I wanted, right? And so when you have that existential crisis come up, you're like, most people can't contain themselves. Most people can't, you know, like, they don't know how to express themselves or communicate because they weren't taught. Most people are coming from trauma, abuse, childhood abuse, and then you got mental abuse and authoritative dictators and all sorts of craziness. And this is the world we're living in. But the only way it's going to get better is if we actively seek to be better. Because when we can be better, we can do better. Buzz, buzz, you know, the hum of the universe. And so punishment is the biggest oppressor of our true expression. It teaches us to suppress what we're meant to express. Isn't that fucked up? So they're punishing us, indoctrinating us, trying to mold us in the image they want us. They don't want us to create. They don't want us to be free thinkers. They want us to be workers, but enslaved to their system, but voluntarily enslaved to their system. You will own nothing and be happy. In a certain sense, yeah. In another sense, no. Because I do actually understand where that comes from. But it's not the way that they want us, that we want to be according to them. That just makes it easier for them if we just go along so they can just feed off of our energy and also make profit off of us because they literally gamble with us. They have insurance claims against us. They borrow money on us. Every time a bond is issued, they cash in on us. Every time you go to court, they're making money off of you. Every time you get a fine, which isn't even a legal tendering situation, they're making money off of you. They make money off of us all the time. Imagine insurance claims against each and every one of us. We are literally traded on the stock market. We are the chattel. We are the cattle. Stock market, where do you think stock, livestock? So with punishment being the worst suppressor of our expression, it's like we're having to address and confront the abuser and accuser, because that's what they are, the judge and the jury according to their rules. But their rules aren't God's rules. They're not divine rules. They're man-made, and they're enslaving. And until we actually confront what they have imposed upon us and expose it for what it truly is, we're going to continue to be slaves to the system. So one of the things I was writing about is it all started in our childhood, right? So maybe your parents, they punished you, and then you started to learn ways to manipulate to get your needs met, because when you're a child, you don't know how to express yourself. Like like you want something, you don't know how to say it in a proper way. You're still learning to articulate and to communicate. And sometimes you got parents that don't know how to teach that properly. So they get frustrated and they take it out on us. So we get punished over things that maybe don't make any sense. But if you've been punished enough times and you end up with a trauma response, like I said, you get a physiological reaction to the situation, and then you carry that through your adulthood. And so it's easier to control someone who has been traumatized. But when a traumatized person gets healed and whole, I tell you right now, there ain't nothing you can get over on one of them. When someone, and I speak from my personal experience, when someone comes at you and you've had enough trauma, you've been around enough abuse, you start to see it. You spot it like it's right there. And you're like, I see it because I've experienced it. And you can call it out. And you don't have to become you don't become like triggered by it, but you also don't give it power. It doesn't hold power over you unless you give it power. And it's interesting how the traumas that we've had in our past still can hold so much power over us that the fear of the punishment or the re-experiencing that trauma could still be lingering, even though that is so far gone that experience doesn't exist, that it was an experience. But because we didn't have a full, we didn't transmute that energy, we didn't fully disperse it, release it, we didn't have a closure of it, we feel like it's still there haunting us. So until we can face that trauma and say, you no longer have any power over me, I call back my power. You're not in this present moment. I am the one who experienced you. Now you can go. And you can talk to your inner child and remind yourself, I'm not going to let anything like that ever happen to you again. You're okay. You're safe with me. And you can feel your inner child just literally soften. And just that sigh of relief. It's relief of just knowing your inner child's been acknowledged and seen and actually protected. Like you claimed it. Claiming it is so much better than letting it claim you or own you. This is why it's so important to know thyself, so nobody can ever pull anything over on you or get one over on you, because ultimately the only reason people get one over on us is because we're lying to ourselves about something similar. Good example. We all want to say we don't like to take advantage of other people. But if someone takes advantage of you, what is the real reason for that happening? I have a couple examples. I've seen it in my own life. Why am I allowing someone to take advantage of me? Because I'm hoping they're going to prove me wrong. But then the ego steps in and goes, see, I told you so. And the ego wants to be right. Instead of listening to your heart and saying, okay, maybe they will and maybe they won't. And if they do, I'm going to remember it and I'm going to recognize it when it comes up again. And instead of holding out for them to do the right thing, I'm going to meet them where they're at. And I'm going to love myself first and more and not allow it to happen again. Another reason sometimes people can take advantage of us is because we don't want to recognize something we see that is in us as well. Like maybe we're somebody who manipulates. We do the same shit. Well, you spot it, you got it. So if you see them doing it, it's probably because you've done it too. That's humility. That's humble. You have to be humble and recognize your shit. Like I do that too. Because I wouldn't recognize it if I didn't know it for myself. But don't punish yourself just because You know, the whole punishment thing's an accepted norm. This is where we need to wake up from this whole self-flagellation. We punish ourselves over this, "Oh, I'm supposed to be like a martyr, and oh, woe is me, and why does this always happen to me?" Get out of your own shit in your own way. I mean, it takes time. You got to recognize it first. But we don't deserve to be punishing each other. We don't deserve to punish ourselves. We certainly don't deserve to have a system that's all punishing. And then in the name of God punishing? Are you fucking kidding me? Really? Drop the act. It's not okay. What we are hearing that's happening in the world is not okay. In the name of God, this, that, or the other, it's not okay. We're humans first. We all bleed blood. We all have brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and grandfathers and grandmothers and children. It's not okay. Nobody deserves to suffer. We wouldn't have such a mental health issue. We wouldn't have so many atrocities if there was less punishment and more compassion and actual rehabilitation and like humans being humans with one another. First off, I want to say this. If you're somebody who buys into the idea that your color, the color of your skin, makes you different than somebody else, and that you got to list off all the reasons, something's fucking wrong with you. If you belong to a certain raw legion or an organization and you are separate from other people because of that, there's something fucking wrong with you. If you can't be a good human with somebody who is a human in front of you, there's something fucking wrong with you. For people who think animals are so wonderful and I don't like humans, it's like, there's something fucking wrong with you. We all got something wrong with us, by the way. But it doesn't mean we got to punish ourselves over it or punish one another. And do you realize that the reason we punish others is it's still punishing ourselves? What we do to another is actually breaking our own fucking hearts. That's the real truth about punishment. So anybody out there, and this is a fucked up game, whether it's dating, whether it's with your parents, this whole shutting down, stonewalling, this whole, I don't want to be bothered with you, I can't handle, you know, like all of it is punishment to some form or another. There is such a thing as like, okay, this is not the time. But in the grand scheme of life, if you can't handle the hard, what makes you be able to appreciate the good? So like they're both two ends of the spectrum. You gotta love your hard and you gotta love your good and your beauty. Like you gotta love it all, because God does. The one source, the creator of all that is, loves it fucking all. If we could be a little lighter on ourselves and start punishing ourselves for all the little stupid shit, you know, the world would be a much easier place to live. My teeth fell out today. Not my tooth, but a filling. I got a hole inside. Sorry. I'm dropping stuff. And I'm saying this for myself too, because when I speak, when I channel, when I receive messages, I recognize the need and how much I need to hear it as well. So what I say to you when I share these videos, it's just as much for me too. Because there's golden nuggets of wisdom in it all. The punishment is not something you need to accept. And I think we need to stop accepting that we need to punish one another and that this world is a punishment or a prison. It isn't. Because for as much of the atrocities you can find, there's a lot of beauty out in the world too. This is, again, law of physics, law of the world, the law of reality of this realm, energy. Where there's this, there's going to be the opposing. The balancing of the energies will always exist. Until we come into full balance, into the neutrality, we're going to see contrast. Because contrast is showing you where there's an imbalance. When you see something negative, Start looking for the positive. Out in nature, wherever you find poison, the remedy is always nearby. So keep that in your mind, that if I can find things wrong, I can equally find things right. And when you catch yourself in a negative mindset, don't punish yourself. Take a deep breath. Where did this start and why? And how did I cling on to this? Like, don't be a clinger. Don't be a clinger. Let go, let loose, and find the opposing. Because what you can cling on to doesn't need to be the negative. When you see it, when you spot it, when you think you got it, okay, where can I find the gratitude? Where can I find where life is showing up to support me? That over here, I'm kind of like in my shit storm, in my own shit show, creating a shit show, you know? Monkeys flinging shit around at each other, trying to get our basic human needs met. Oh, what was me? You need to do this for me to make me feel secure and safe and blah, 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 blah. You know what? We're so dramatic. We're drama queens. That's what this life is about. All the world's a stage. So if all the world's a stage and you get to be the star of your own show, do you want to throw a drama scene of, oh, woe is me? Or do you want to go, hey, look at me? Because you can do either or, but do it to your fullness and love it, lap it, do it up. Why? Because you can. If you're going to sit in your shit, sit in your shit. Stink it up, smell it up, lick it up, whatever you got to do. But when you're done with that, you can go look in the mirror and say, how's that feel? How's that serving you? Are you ready for the contrast? Because when you did, I like to say, the deeper I dive, the higher I rise. I'm willing to dig deep into my shit. I'm willing to go down there. Sometimes it sucks. And other times I'm like, wow, that really served. I was able to see something about myself I didn't realize was still lingering, that I was clinging on to. I had what do they call them? Dingleberry? I had a dingleberry going on. I needed to eradicate, remove. But I say all of this because yesterday I was in a mood, I was in a groove, because that's what that does. When you're in a mood, you're really just deep in a groove, an old pattern. And when you catch it, it's always an opportunity to kind of like go, okay. So I walked around the city and I really just reflected, and I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. I can equally find my way out of this, right? I can always choose to stay where I'm at or move and get the hell out of my own way and see where I end up. And it was really beautiful because I recognized my purpose and why I already know, but I'm getting clearer and clearer on the vision of where it's headed. And I think it's beautiful when you recognize that even when you dive into your own shit, it's so revealing. And it really is about feeling the depths of it. That if you're willing to feel the depths of that shit, the universe tends to say, okay, we're ready to pull you up as high as you're willing to go. Because you're so willing to go that deep, we're going to make you fly real high. And hey, I was in the Air Force, so I already aim high. But just remember that punishment is not a death sentence. I think the fear of authority has gotten to our heads way too much. It's time to be a little rebellious, people. Be a rebel with a cause. And I mean like because you deserve it. You didn't come here to play small. And it's not right to go along just because it's familiar and it's comfortable. Sometimes you gotta get a little dirty. You gotta get out of that comfort zone to really exercise your courage muscle, to build your confidence, to recognize how resilient you are and how much power you truly have. Go back to your source. Go back to your roots. You got a whole lot of living and loving to do. Because sometimes in our childhood, we heard the voice of punishment, and that's the same voice we hear in our heads even today. Like a record player on repeat, the memories deepen into a groove. It's forged so deeply hidden within our unconscious. Like I said about the physiological response, that when you hear a certain noise, you hear a certain tone of voice, you hear a certain music or even just a word. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Or a flinch from like a shadow that casts over you, and it reminds you of like getting hit a lot. The only way to get out of it is to confront it and go into it. And sometimes that's scary. There are different ways to go about doing that in a safe space, though. And order out of chaos. This was another one that dropped in. You know, so often you hear this, it's on the dollar bill, order out of chaos. Think about this. This is the two halves of the whole story, right? It's not just out of the chaos you're going to create order as an organization of a form of rules and constrictions and constraints, because that's what they mean by order, right? Order out of chaos. We're gonna strap you in and keep you in line, right? But it's also about their self-appointed order. You know, the New World Order. Their sect, it's secular. That's the order they really mean. The one where they're the only ones in control. But see, they can't have control unless you give it to them willingly. It has to be done voluntarily. So if you notice, nothing has ever been forced upon us. It's been implied through the appearance of force, but it's been this, because of the punishment, because of this groove that's been deeply forged in us, this fear of authority, that even without punishment, we already anticipate something if we don't go along to get along. So you have to really question yourself, is there a real life threat here? Am I really going to lose something as a result of not going along with something that doesn't align with me? That's the real message in all of it. That's the message I received, that it's time to stop going against your true nature. It's time to actually align to your inner source, to reclaim your life force, the power within you, and stop giving it out, stop outsourcing. Punishment is just the punishment is we're fearing a punishment that is implied. Remember what I said? It's imposing. It's time to expose the wrongs and make it right. No more punishment. This world needs to stop with the punishing of humans, especially us against one another. But first and foremost, stop punishing yourself. Everything in this world starts with self. That was the one thing about that book, Power versus Force by David R. Hawkins. That line right there, power starts with self. Power is innately within you. It's your God-given power, your divinity, your source. Tap into that. That whatever's going on around you in the world, if it triggers you, that's where you need to do the work. That's whatever triggers you is your work to do. It's what you need to confront within yourself so that it doesn't hold power over you, that you no longer give it your power, that it's not a clinger, it's not lingering. It's up to you to reclaim you. Okay? So, is that enough? Sharing is caring. If you like this video, please smash the like button. I appreciate you. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. Let me know what it is, whatever messages, whatever questions you have for me in the comments. Again, I'm here to support, uplift, inspire, and empower you to be the best version of you you're meant to be. I know what I needed when I was going through my life shakeups and wake-ups, and I had to break up, because a breakup is a breakthrough. When you're breaking down, it means you're going to break through something. So always remind yourself, no matter what you're going through, there have been plenty of times in your past you've gotten through it, and you're going to get through this too. Don't beat yourself up. And remember, the times that we beat ourselves up and the times that we react and lash out at others is usually because of a deep internal resentment to ourselves. It's never to another. It's the anger toward ourselves that we wish we had done something different. The resentment is that we didn't speak up most of the times. We didn't actually defend ourselves in any type of punishment. So let's expose the authorities. Let's expose those who think they're the authorities for imposing their will upon us. Let thy will be done. I love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, you rock, and you got the power. You got the power. Lots of love from Valencia, Spain.